this.
Welcome back, guys, to another Clash Royale video, and today I want to share with you guys some tips and advice on playing this game as a free-to-play player. In fact, some of these tips might also be useful for those of you who spend a little bit of money on this game, and I'll cover a variety of topics including how to spend your gold, how to spend your gems, some deck advice, and overall how to just get better at this game. And I want to just begin by saying this is based on all personal opinion from someone who has played this game for over 4 months, made it all the way up to 3,400 trophies as a 100% free-to-play player. But my very first tip here has to do with gold, because gold by far is the biggest bottleneck right now for free-to-play players. So you have to be very particular with what you spend your gold on, because very much like in Clash of Clans, when you reach a new Town Hall level, there's going to be 100 upgrades available, but you don't have all the resources available to upgrade all those things at once. So you have to pick and choose which upgrades are most important to you. Let's go ahead and take a look at my account here. As you can see, I have 15,000 gold, which might seem like a lot, but taking a look at some of these upgrades, the cannon by itself costs 8,000 gold, the elixir collector costs 2,000 gold, so right there, in 2 upgrades, that's 10,000 gold gone. But maybe I want to go ahead and upgrade these minions here to get some extra health and damage. So like I said, you really have to be particular with what you upgrade, and you have to pick and choose and decide which upgrades are going to have the biggest impact on your battles. Because for example, upgrading this cannon gives me a little bit of extra health and damage, which will help take out those hog riders as well as the royal giants. Whereas if I spend the gold on an elixir collector upgrade, all I'm really getting is a little bit more health. I'm not getting more elixir out of that elixir collector, so is that really an important upgrade? Or for example, the 1 elixir skeletons, those are really for the most part only used for distraction. I mean, the upgrade does add a bit of damage, which helps them take out tank cards like the royal giant or the giant. But for the most part, am I better off spending gold on a different upgrade? So like I said, you really have to be particular with what you spend your gold on. My advice is to determine which card to use most often and which upgrades will have the biggest impact on your daily battles. Upgrade those cards first and try to not upgrade the cards which you never use. For example, I have a level 4 rocket right now, but I don't intend to upgrade it anything past that because I don't really use the rocket or the barbarian hut. I don't really use that. So as you can see, that's still level 5 and I haven't upgraded it. I focused all of my gold on the cards that I use most often. Now let's talk about the shop here. I would definitely recommend going into the shop every single day and buying a couple of these commons and a couple of the rares at least, because the first couple of cards are fairly cheap, and if you use those cards, it really helps speed up progression a lot. Now if you don't use the card, for example, if a rocket shows up in my shop, I don't bother buying it at all. Now as far as the epics go, unless you're in a lower arena level where a level 1 or a level 2 epic has a huge impact, I wouldn't really recommend spending that 2,000 gold getting those epics, because when you are at the point where it takes 10 epics to do one upgrade, I would definitely recommend spending the gold elsewhere because it won't have much of an impact on your daily gameplay. Unless you use that epic a lot and you're 1 or 2 cards away from upgrading it. And if you guys are short on gold, absolutely try to donate the maximum amount of cards that you can every single day, because it'll really help out affording those upgrades, because there's really no point on having 1,001 card if you can't afford the upgrade itself. Now the next tip here has to do with gems, and in my opinion, as a free-to-play player, the best use of gems is definitely saving up to 500 gems and buying that bucket of gold and getting yourself 10,000 gold and using that towards upgrades. I wouldn't really recommend spending the gems on giant chests or magical chests. I don't really think you get the greatest return. I think the best investment with those gems is spending it on gold. Now the second best use of gems as a free-to-play player, in my opinion, is using them to unlock the chests that you earn in battle, because that'll help you earn more magical chests and more giant chests. And if you're lucky enough, you might even get a super magical chest if you're always playing with a chest slot open. Now my next tip here has to do with picking a deck, because I definitely think you should build a deck that you genuinely enjoy the playstyle of, because it's going to be a lot easier to play the number of battles required to get good with that deck if you do enjoy the playstyle of that deck. Now that being said, you should also pick a deck that fits pretty well in the current meta of the game, because there is such a thing as good decks and bad decks in this game. For example, in Clash of Clans, you're not going to 3-star somebody with barbarians and archers. You're going to have to go with a better attack strategy like Go-Ho or Lavalunian or something like that. And you are going to have to play this deck a lot, because you need to master this deck, you need to learn all the ins and outs of the deck, and there are 54 cards in this game, so you need to know how your deck can counter or be countered by all of those 54 cards in the game, and this is really just going to take time and practice. Like anything else in life, being really good at something takes time. And this ties into what I said earlier. If you pick a deck that you genuinely enjoy, it's going to be a lot easier to invest the time required to get good with that deck. And the reason it's so important to invest so much time with one deck is because all of the plays that you'll make will become a force of habit, which will allow you to shift your focus mentally onto tracking your opponent's elixir, trying to track your opponent's card rotation, and trying to see if your opponent has a specific pattern in the kind of plays you're making. Now, tying this back to my very first tip about gold, you really should prioritize all of the upgrades for this deck that you're focusing on and spend all of the gold you have upgrading these cards first, because as a free-to-play player, it's more than likely that you'll only have enough gold to have all of the cards maximized for one deck only. And once you have all those cards upgraded to the max that you can currently, then you can start branching out and upgrading other cards and making slight changes to your deck. Now my next tip here is before you are ready to pick one deck and start mastering it and pushing trophies with that deck, you really should experiment and playing around with a bunch of different cards and a bunch of different strategies, because the easiest way to learn how a card works and how to counter a card is by actually playing that card itself and seeing what your opponents do to counter you. So before you are ready to start being serious about pushing trophies and building that one deck that you want to spend a ton of time mastering, you really should try and experiment with different cards and strategies, and that helps you learn the ins and outs of every other card in the game. Now obviously this doesn't work if you don't have the card like legendaries, for example. I know a lot of you don't have all the legendaries or any legendaries. So in those scenarios, if you lose to somebody using a legendary, you really should go back and watch the replay and try and brainstorm some ideas on what you could have done better. Try and look for where things went wrong, how you could have countered what they did. So really just watch your replays and try and figure out how you can improve. Now my next tip here might seem pretty silly and obvious, but as a free-to-play player, you really have to be patient in this game, because this game is designed for long-term progression. Things would be really boring if you maxed out in a couple of months, because then it would just become this very boring trophy grind, where I like to look forward to something every single day, opening that crown chest, and especially getting those epics and even potentially getting a legendary card. I like having something every single day to look forward to, and if you were to max out, like I said, in a couple of months, things would get boring really quickly. Now tying into this being patient thing, some advice here is don't hate the gemmers or the higher levels in this game, because all that's really going to do is lead to unnecessary rage and tilt, and you won't be playing to the best of your abilities. And there's actually a lot of games against a higher level where you could probably win, but if you get too mad too early, you might end up not playing as well as you could have and then losing a game where you could have actually won. And on a secondary note here, if you are in a position where you're constantly battling higher level opponents, that's actually a very good thing, because what it means is you are so skilled at this game that you are above and beyond the average trophy range for your level, and you are doing really well right now, and you should actually be happy with that fact. Myself, for example, on my mini account, I'm a level 7, and like 60% of my battles are against level 9s, and that actually doesn't bother me too much, because I can still win at least 50% of my battles and stay at the trophy range that I'm at. And also, I like knowing that I'm above and beyond the average trophy range for my level. Now this next tip here isn't necessarily exclusive to free-to-play players, but if you are a skilled free-to-play player, more than likely you'll end up in a situation where you're constantly battling higher level opponents. And since this game is all about the elixir trades, my advice is to play on your side of the arena, because you can use your crown towers to help overcome that level difference, and also it is a lot easier to win positive elixir trades on your side of the arena, and you can build up an elixir advantage over time and then use that advantage to beat your opponent even if they are a higher level. Now my final tip here, guys, is to just have fun with it. Remember, this is just a game. Don't take it too seriously. Don't get so mad to the point that you want to break your phone after losing a battle. Remember, it's just a game, and it's designed to give us a little bit of fun in our daily lives. Now, when we start talking about tournaments with a big money prize pool, then we can start taking it very seriously. But as far as the day-to-day activities in this game, just have fun with it and just enjoy yourself. Remember, this is just a game. But that's going to do it for today's video. I really hope it was helpful. If it was, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you know some free-to-play players that might benefit from this advice, try sharing it with them. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.